Anyone who today who carries the Adamic strain or the Homo Atlantean strain has the alien DNA. We're lumbered with the schism within ourselves genetically. It brings the immorality we have softly within ourselves every day. We wake up, it's ingrained in us. Will I climb on another person to get ahead? Is it good to steal? Shall I lie? This soft evil that's in us, and then there's the mega evil, the mega death on the social front. So all of that, from the psychological component of the human being all the way up to the physical manifestation of serial killers and mass murders and what have you on the earth, actually comes from this problem of the DNA. The ancients used to liken it to the two dragons fighting each other, or the two twins in conflict with each other, Mordred and King Arthur, Dylan and Lou, Cain and Abel, Jesus and Lucifer,
Is this also a yin-yang, or?
Yeah. In fact, the yin-yang symbol used to be called the eyes of the serpent, representing the black and white serpents. You have the conflict of, let's think of some of the primordial conflicts. You have, there's so many of them, Horus and Set. The whole idea of the two twins fighting for regency. In fact, there's a poem from the Old Testament when it's meant to be talking about Jacob and Esau, but it works so well. It says, "In your limbs lie nations twain, rival races from their birth. One the mastery shall gain, the younger or the elder reign." So the two dragons, in Arthurian legends, they talk about the white dragon and the red dragon in conflict with each other, in perpetual rivalry. And it's the two parts of our own consciousness. It's
which two parts?
The alien proclivity and the humanistic proclivity. Now, of course, conditioning matters too. I think that the idea on Lemuria was that the Lemurians were going to help to, condition out these alien genes. They may have even done that with interference on the genetic level, or they may have just done it by conditioning over time to get that out. And some of us are like that. Some people in the world, the Mozarts, Beethovens, Salvador Dali's, whatever, they have that more humanistic side. They're so connected to the universal matrix, so tuned in. And then you get the other side, which is, it's the whole Star Trek, double-sided guy, right? We are these schizoid beings, and because we're schizoid beings, we create a schizogenic society. And we're all laboring under this problem right now, and many people have questioned, what we can really do about it. But there's a historical component to this as well, and that is that we have our history being artificially moved forward. Now, we have a very interesting book called the Emerald Tablets of Hermes, which is another one of the ancient scripts that was, I think, translated by the Medicis. Could be wrong there, but certainly it came into the West by way of the Romans. And one of the captions in that book says that, "Speak I of ancient Atlantis, speak of the days of the kingdom of shadows, speak of the coming of the children of shadows. Out of the great deep they were called by the wisdom of the earth-man. In the form of man they moved amongst us, but only to sight were they as men. Serpent-headed, when the glamour was lifted, crept they into councils, taking form that were like unto men, slaying by their arts the chiefs of the kingdoms, taking their form and ruling over man, to destroy man and rule in his place." So the ancient books are talking about deep magic. They're talking about weaponry. They're talking about psychic control. They're talking about mind control. They're talking about evil archies behind government.
So if they had the technology back then, if they had all these abilities back then, they may have lost, certain elements in their cache. But why take however many thousands of years to get us to the point where we are today?
Because it's a slow process. Some of these works talk about that's not a pleasant thing for them. However, some of the works, William Bramley in his book Gods of Eden, and there are several other ancient books like the Annals of the Four Masters, which is one of these old volumes from Ireland, and a few other books like that, actually refer to the fact that during the Renaissance period they'd already built back their spacecrafts. As weird as this sounds, so when we look at those Leonardo da Vinci drawings of the old helicopters and submersibles, that's not just him doodling thinking, oh, tomorrow we'll have all of this. This is him recording what they once had, because he was an initiate into these secret societies. He was very much a member of some of these brotherhoods, and he was one of the people that is an official figure. He's one of the people that's above radar level, where we know him as a historical figure, but there were many who were put in charge of this building of this technology. So they were not just doodling and prophesizing for the future. They were people, agents of these secret societies, working on this particular paradigm, as the people behind MIT today and some of these other characters behind some of the scientific institutions are.
Wait a minute.
They're also involved in this.
That sounds so, and obviously this entire show sounds so fringe, because, and maybe it's alternative, if we
Right.
could use that word, nature, but how? This is where I kind of get lost. I can follow the idea of technology and the concept of as in the cradle of civilization. Suddenly you have a social structure and money, and the concept of a patriarchal society. It had to have come from somewhere. That's the logic side speaking.
Right.
But when you start diving into and start talking about secret societies,
Yeah.
Whether they're called what's a common term, like Freemasons or
Right. Illuminati or whatever you want
Illuminati.
to call them. Yeah.
That's where I'm not quite making that connection, because it just seems to me that and I maybe I subscribe to the thought on, well, if it happened or if it's happening, wouldn't we know about it?
Well, we do know about it. See, what the thing is, we do know about it, but that when you study secret societies, it's a very separate. In a way, it's a separate type of research that very few people can make the connection. What you're talking about is a very difficult thing to do, is to try and first of all work out what is the alternative history of the world, and then find out how these secret societies operate. Now, I'm trying to find this particular. Here it is. In the Book of Enoch, this will help lead into what we're talking about. The artificial movement forward, you have to have custodians for that, and it has to be financed. And also, you have to have a pyramidical hierarchical structure when you're orchestrating all of this. One, because that works very well, and two, you have enemies out there. The Atlanteans have their rivals, so they want to conceal as they're moving this down. They're not just doing it in the open. You have to conceal from your slaves your agenda. So this is where the idea started to happen, where you create cellular, hierarchical, self-enclosed structures, which is basically what the secret society system is. It's a system of decompartmentalization. So that, and the pyramid is the perfect symbol of that, like a hologram or a fractal. Each person working in their cell, just like the CIA operate, just like the triads operate, all of these criminal organizations work in this. The gangs of even New York work on a cellular structure, right? Well, anyway. In the Book of Enoch it says, and Azazel, this is one of the dark angels, Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working with them. And they were led astray, and men became corrupt in all their ways. The Welsh talk about it. The Smithsonian also has understood, the Smithsonian Institute and the Bureau of Standards there in Washington have brought to light various objects that prove that 7,000 years ago people were producing steel in furnaces at a temperature of 9,000 degrees centigrade. That's almost like the heat of the sun. This has just recently been proven. Dr. R.V. Dolphin, after studying the Libyan desert glass, he found little, beautifully ornate glass and beads and necklaces. But Dolphin suggested that for the ancient Phoenicians to have worked with temperatures equivalent to 6,000 degrees Celsius, nothing else could make these particular vessels, that they must have known the secret of atomic power. This is one of the top experts in that field. And 6,000 degrees is only 2,000 degrees short of the temperature of the sun. So again, official think tanks, organizations, bastions are discovering this. The word Europe, where do we even get that word? Europe in Greek mythology came from the goddess Europa, who was the daughter of the phoenix, which rose from what? The flames of destruction. The very name Europe was given because it's a miracle, right? Just like Ireland was called the Blessed Isles, the Fortunate Isles. Europe is the one who survived the flames, the cataclysm. Now, the secret society thing ties in because these individuals created these orders in order to be fraternal in nature, to have degree ceremonies, so that only initiated people would know what is the top. What is the top? Pick up any Masonic book and look at the 33rd degree, the 32nd, 33rd degree. I go into all of this in the second half of the Atlantis book. It says Prince of the Royal Secret, the Keepers of the Royal Secret, the Prince of the Brazen Serpent. These are the high degrees of Freemasonry. What secret? The secret of genetics, perhaps? Is that the royal secret? Well, the symbolism in Freemasonry shows you exactly that. And in the DVD I have coming out that's a companion of the book, I go into that very deeply. The whole occult history of America is detailed with meticulous detail in that DVD. It's 15 hours long, like we were talking earlier. It's a multi-DVD set. And it goes into the whole concept of the secret societies, and I will talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But one thing before I want to leave the old Celtic stuff, I think this is something monumental of importance. We must understand also that there wasn't just this vast technological expertise, you know, there was also this sort of clairvoyant ability. And after one of the great wars in Ireland, the west coast of Ireland, when these demonic forces were fighting with the Sons of Light won a particular series of wars about 5,000 years ago. And of course, being a matriarchy, the priestesses at the end, one of the priestesses meant to have gone to the Mourne Mountains to celebrate. The armies went to celebrate the defeat of their enemies, and she gave this prophecy. This prophecy is dated by Charles Squire and other Celtic scholars of 5,000 years ago. That's at least 3,000 and probably more thousand years BC. And here's the prophecy verbatim translated. It says, "Then she," this is the queen, "added a prophecy in which she foretold the approaching end of the divine age, and the coming of a new one in which the summers would be flowerless, the cows milkless, and the women shameless, and men strengthless, in which there would be trees without fruit, and seas without fish, when old men would give false judgments, and legislators would make unjust laws, when warriors would betray one another, and men would be thieves, and there would be no more virtue in the world."
And when was this?
5,000 years BC. Now, you don't even really need to edit that or use too much intelligence to realize what era she was talking about, because that is what you see outside your window every day today. And think that's bad? In the Norse Edda, this is the Scandinavian mythologies, what, several hundred miles, 1,000 miles, you know, west, in the Teutonic, you have in the Norse Edda almost the same thing. A female high priestess says this: Then she saw wade in heavy streams men, foul murderers and perjurers, who them other wives seduced to sin, brothers to slay brothers, sisters' children shed each other's blood. Hard is the world, sensual sin grows huge. These are the sword ages, the axe ages, shields are cleft in twain, storm ages, murder ages, till the world falls dead.